Hey everybody, I'm Claire.
And I'm Alexis.
We're the brand sisters from Animela Brand and Design Agency. We wanted to get together every now and then just to kind of share the tips and wisdom that we have been gleaning over the years, working with clients, and thought it would be helpful just to share some with you, but in kind of convo style. So one big lesson that this last week actually that I've been thinking about is the simple truth that less is more. I was thinking about, I don't know how many years ago, it was 7, 8 something years ago, when Nick, my husband, started his alternative healthcare practice, and we were trying to save money because we were, super poor. And so I was like, okay, I'll do the website for you, So I put together the website, and I totally fall in love, and years later, obviously, it made sense that was what was supposed to happen. But so I make this website, thought it was like killer, amazing, had all this cool information, these cool graphics, all this kind of stuff. And then we had a brand strategist who was a friend of ours take a look at our website and just kind of do a little bit of an audit and tell us what needed to improve, what could we, do better with. And so she looked at it, and she was super gracious and very kind with her words, but essentially she said there's just like way too much. Like, we had lots of pages, but we also just had a lot of content. We had a lot of copy going all over the place, and I was thinking how common that is for businesses, because you have a message that, number one, you feel really passionate about, and number two, you know it inside and out, and so there's like 50 different ways that you could explain it, and there's this like one cool analogy and this like one cool line I had and whatever. And so you just want to like add all that in because you're passionate about it, and you want the person that visits your site or social media or whatever to feel that too. But the lesson that I learned then, and a lesson that I have to like keep reiterating pretty much with every single client, whether it's a client that has just started in business or has been in business for years, same thing is like less is more. When someone comes to your site, a recent study showed that it takes 50 milliseconds for a visitor to a site to develop an opinion about that business. So that means we have very little time, to make a good impression. And I think it's so important for us, and that's what, why people hire us, because they need an objective point of view. They need someone from the outside to come look in and see what we're not seeing, and pick up on things that we would just be blind to, especially because we're so obsessed with what we're doing.
Right.
So the importance of keeping it clear, concise, brief, choosing power words, not bringing in a bunch of adjectives and flowery language so that you just lose your reader, you lose your visitor. So anyway, I think that's something that is worth, going through and reevaluating, or just evaluating for yourself and for your business, to see, like, when someone comes to my site, within the first few seconds, can they understand what I'm doing? What am I offering? What could I give to them that would improve their existence? And also, is the feel, is how the person feels as they come onto the website or their social media mirroring that? Is everything cohesive? Is everything mirroring each other and complementing each other? Because if you have an awesome message but your graphics are really outdated, or if you have a very feminine message but you have very masculine design, it's going to conflict. And I don't think people realize how much what we take in is not just, we don't just see the words.
Right.
We see everything, right? We take in everything. So
I have a question. It seems like your first website was more focused on you guys and less on your audience and what they needed.
Totes, yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like,
very wise.
And I think that's so true. Like, I think a lot of times we put all this stuff in that we want to portray about ourselves or like what we do, but we're not thinking about what is the best for our audience, right?
Totally.
So, like, what's that balance between, you're talking about not having too much, but obviously we want to show, our entire brand entirety, but like, so what's the balance there, like, between those two things?
That's very insightful. I could have used you back then. Yeah, I think that the balance comes between, you know yourself and you know what you're about. You know your identity. But ultimately, the harsh fact is like when someone comes to your site or your social media, they're not really there to get to know you yet, right? They're there because they want to know what they can get.
Right.
How are you going to enrich their life? And so I think for the most part, what needs to come across is something that your message needs to be for the client, absolutely, or for your ideal client, but it needs to resonate with who you are. So I feel like it needs to begin with the client and then...
And I mean, this is like one of the things that we talk about is like a lot of times people don't know how to represent their brand well, right? It's like, here's what I do, or here's what I used to do, or here's how I help you. But like, there's a way to like present your brand in a way that is holistic, which is like obviously what we do, but to still be clear and concise.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a lot to be clear and concise or to make people feel like you're offering a lot to them, right?
Totally.
And I think that's like the neat thing about your different platforms is that you get to showcase like different things about you on different sites. So like, what do you think? Like, how do those things like work together to show a cohesive brand, but not everything dumped in one spot?
That's a really good point. And I think that is the strength of having a variety of ways where people can meet you and interact with you. Your site should be more or less, I mean, I think for most people it's not the first impression, right? So like when someone comes to your site, they're already interested in you. So I think the key with this site is you have to have your offerings there, right? And they have to be clear and they have to be convincing enough for someone to want them. So I think like having your personality come across for sure is important, but you also need to have a strategically done site that knows how to, when someone comes to your homepage or whatever, landing page you're coming to, they know exactly how to navigate throughout to maximize their experience. And I think that's a lot of, especially people without experience, they don't realize how much they can take advantage of the homepage. Every little piece is so strategically planned out to allow for the client to have a more substantial interaction with you, whether that's buying a service or buying you, whatever it is, But I think social media for sure is such a better opportunity and email blasts for that matter. Like those should all be opportunities to develop a relationship.
It's like a meet or greet.
Yeah.
Meet and greet. Not meet or greet.
Meet or greet. Yeah.
Meet and greet. Like I think a lot of times now, like, you know how our dad, like growing up, used to go to these like weekly kind of networking things, And I know that there are still things like that, but I don't think that they're in the same way. And like, especially with the pandemic, there aren't those things. And I think that that's why social media has become so important is it's like networking.
Yeah,
but you get to like have such a more broad network. But that's why it is so important to use social media networking in your own way, right? And in a way that's like appropriate for your business, but to have those kind of like networking opportunities. And then people then are interested and want to come to your website.
And not to be like super salesy, like no one wants to like go on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever and just be like sold to, have like promotion after promotion. Like that should be a very small percentage of the interactions that you have. Yeah.
And I think that that's where, that's obviously what social media, when people use it really well, it's like getting to know you. And yes, like about what you do, but it's like a way to like shake their hand, like tell them where you're from, what you're into, figuratively.
Yeah, virtually.
Virtually. So then that's like the neat thing about it is like when you think of it, and I mean that's what we talk a lot about is like using all of your brand assets like as your cohesive brand. So what do you think makes up like Claire designs incredible websites and like incredible homepages, and I know it's different for each business, but like what are some of the things that you feel like are valuable on that homepage when people are just going there first?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. I think there needs to be a healthy balance of, get to know you, but also this is what I offer. So usually like within that first section, there should be a very clear, this is who I am. And there should be a very clear call to action, whether it's like, check out my services or, if check out this new course we have going on or sign up for this newsletter or whatever. So that's super important right off the bat. And then the homepage really should be usually is pretty hefty. You have basically everything that you could offer that they could go into detail elsewhere on the site. Everything should be in bite pieces on the homepage. So when they're glancing through your homepage, they get a really nice whole view, a holistic view of who you are.
I love that we're talking about like inviting them, but it's also okay to be kind of bossy too. Like invitational and bossy. Here's who I am. Welcome here. But like, I'm calling you to do this. Like I'm calling a call to action in that way. And I think that sometimes, especially for people that don't like being salesy, which we hate salesiness.
Yeah.
But it's still okay. I think some of us hesitate then to like ask people, like, go, in your own worded, branded way, like, go check this out, go see what we do. But like, there's a way to do that and share without being salesy, right? That still is like inviting them to do something. But also sharing what you do.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And having just, so many different options for people to find out what you're doing. Like I love on a homepage where they have options to like, check out our podcast. This is like what we're featuring this week. Or like, this is what we're doing with our blog or, whatever it is. And I think that it's so undervalued having your personality come through on the homepage because it is like you're kind of developing a relationship with somebody. And we talk about this all the time about how you want to buy into who you're buying from, so you want to have that connection and you don't want to have a homepage that's just like what you could find anywhere else.
Like totally sterile.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that that's the thing. And a lot of times we think about personality as just like, just a picture of yourself. And like, here's what I've done in my life. And but like, it's so much more than that, right?
Yeah.
So like, what are some ways that you infuse personality in websites?
Well, I think copy is huge, which is more your area of expertise. And so making sure that the copy is reflecting their brand personality is, crucial.
Right.
Always including some sort of a mini bio on your homepage is really valuable. And I love when people give little fun tidbits about them on the homepage and their mini bio instead of going into like a full, this is where I went to school. Like really just giving fun little things where you're like, ooh, I have that in common with that person. Yeah. I don't have to have everything in common, but like, yes, I love T2, cool. Like we all love making friends. So it's like, we're always looking for something to connect on with somebody. So I think having as many opportunities like that on the homepage are valuable.
And then what about the visuals? I mean, I know that this is a whole separate conversation, right? But like with less being more, like how do you include your personality and things like that on the homepage that still show people who you are?
I think a lot of that has to do with like consistently using the brand assets that you have at your disposal. I think a lot of people use like templated things that are, like Canva and all those kinds of things are awesome, but a lot of people are using them, know? So when you incorporate those kinds of things that aren't individualized or customized to you, then it starts to kind of lose a little bit of that personality. Right. So I feel like having those brand assets that are totally uniquely you, and especially, for us, like when we're doing, brand design and logo design, all that kind of stuff, it's such a missed opportunity when you just have a pretty graphic for your logo, like you have so much. Each business I know has so much to offer and like a whole philosophy and culture behind what they're doing, and to not use that as an opportunity to bring some true depth is just like a bummer, So I feel like incorporating that so that you can tell your story in visual ways, because we take that in too, like subconsciously we're taking in all the visuals as we go down a homepage and, visit social media, whatever it might be. So having all of those and having variety so that you don't just have like one image that you're just like repeating over and over and over again, but having all different kinds that all complement each other and all give the same message. It's just like, you feel like you're coming into a culture when you come into, someone's homepage, you're coming into their home. And
I just love that. Sorry. I just like coming into a culture, like that is exactly, I think, what like successful brands want to achieve, right? Is that it's invitational. It's inviting them into your culture, like to your brand values, to like what is deepest and truest to you in subtle ways, right? It's not just about like having them buy into it, but it's about having them have an experience. Like we talk a lot about that too, having an experience of your brand. So I love that.
Yeah,
I feel like we should use that We're going to use that line somewhere in our copy.
Sounds good.
I will be making note of that shortly.
Yeah.
But I love that. And I think a lot of times we get so stressed out about all the things that you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something so freeing about thinking about stripping away what's not necessary, you know?
Yeah.
And it leaves you a little bit more. And I think a lot of times, sometimes we include a bunch of those things. Number one, because we don't have the right strategy.
Right.
We're just trying to do it on our own. But secondly, too, sometimes it kind of like builds a wall around us, which is like we're hiding a little bit from those things. But I think there's something so beautiful about letting go and really letting your brand be showcased. So.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like for us, that was a huge reason why we went with our, aesthetic for our brand, because we wanted to encourage that stripping away, and just like getting all the excess, the false personas that we, put on to make ourselves feel better. And a lot of that is like we imitate other businesses that are doing the same thing. And we're like, okay, we should do it that way because they're successful. So I'm going to take that on, But eventually we realized that's not us.
Right.
And we have to figure out what is actually us, and then allowing that to come through authentically, which takes vulnerability, which is hard. And I feel like a lot of ways that we are showing our business and sharing our business, it just reveals so much about us.
Absolutely.
It's like, do we feel confident with who we are?
Right.
So I feel like the way you develop with your business is it grows, you grow. So it's such a transformative experience if you let it be.
Right. And if you invest the foundational work.
Yeah.
Which is what we're going to be talking about in our next episode, is like brand foundations and just how to invest in that, because it really is the core of your brand. And I feel like once you get that done, then you feel more confident in sharing yourself in a more authentic way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
Well,
less is more.
Yeah. Check us out next video. We'll be chatting about something new, so stay tuned.
Yep. Bye.